Welcome to the Details of Life. I'm your host, Marcus Wilson, and like always, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to start off with a big thank you. I just checked the last episode with Purdue head coach Matt Painter, and we were just over 4,000 views in 2 days. So I got to tell you guys, it feels good. It's not about the views. What it is for me is, before all this started, I went out and bought all the equipment. I went out and bought Adobe Premiere. I went out and got DaVinci Resolve, which are video editing programs. Spent hours teaching myself how to do that. And then came and really started putting in a lot of work. And so to see people appreciate the work that you put in, it gives me the same feeling of when I play ball myself. So when I used to go to the gym and put in the work, nobody in the gym, waking up early, going to the track, things like that. And then to go out and drop 30 and see the fans appreciate your quality of work, it gives me that same feeling. So it means so much. I'm going to keep working, and I just thank you guys for supporting me. And like I said, I'm going to keep doing the best I can. And you know what? We're going to keep the party going today. Today we have one of my old arch nemesis, one of my old adversaries, Dan Muller, Illinois State head coach. And 1995, he was the freshman of the year in the Missouri Valley Conference, two-time defensive player of the year in 1996 and 97, and was the 1998 most outstanding player in the Missouri Valley Conference tournament. Came back as a coach and has had success, was the 2017 coach of the year in the Missouri Valley Conference. So he's had a lot of success in the Missouri Valley Conference over the years. When he graduated in 98, went overseas and played ball for a couple years, came back, coached at Vanderbilt with Coach Kevin Stallings and had a lot of success there, was the recruiting coordinator. Vanderbilt had success there like they haven't had since. I don't know if you guys remember the 2012 championship game with Kentucky and Kansas. That was Anthony Davis's year. And they only had 2 losses, one to IU, one to Vanderbilt in the SEC championship game. And he was a part of that staff. So he's had a lot of success, and we were able to talk about a lot of that. We talked about our old MVC plan days, guys that we played against, teammates, and all that good stuff. And we also talked about his scheduling. He always schedules tough. San Diego State, BYU, Ole Miss, just to name a few in the last couple of years. So his philosophy on scheduling, obviously his expectations for next year, and just a lot of good talk with the old adversary and a baller and a good coach in the Missouri Valley Conference. So without further ado, let's go ahead and chime in with Illinois State head coach Dan Muller. Like I just prefaced, ladies and gentlemen, today we have one of my old adversaries on the court, a good coach here in the MVC, Illinois State head coach Dan Muller. How you doing, Dan?
I am great. Marcus, how are you doing?
Man, I'm great. We were just talking, but for the people, how are you doing, and how's your family doing? Everybody staying healthy and safe during this COVID-19 quarantine?
Yeah, we're good. We're blessed. I mean, there's the change of schedule. Obviously, my wife works, but she's been working from home, so she stays very busy. My dog loves it, so that's good.
Gotcha.
My family, my parents, my brothers, all our sisters and my in-laws, they're all good. And really just excited about potentially looks like things are going to start opening up a little bit here, which I am looking forward to and in favor of, being smart about it and staying safe. But I'm excited about getting out a little bit more than just going to Lowe's and Home Depot and the grocery store, which is basically where I go.
Man, I hear you, and I really hope that you guys can get out. I hope they I've heard whispers and stuff about them opening up a couple live periods, and possibly, like you said, hopefully we can stay safe, but hopefully that'll happen, and we can watch some kids play some ball this summer. You guys can get back on the court. So, man, just to go back, I played against you in the 90s.
The 90s.
I know how good you were. I can honestly say this. As far as defenders, I think that you were the best defender that I played against in the Valley during my time there. Do your current players know how good you were and your team was? I mean, you, Rico Hill, Leroy Watkins, Jamar Smiley, Kyle. I mean, you guys had some monsters on that team. Do they know how good you were?
Well, I'll answer the question in a different way. They don't know how good Michael Jordan was. So, I mean, they definitely don't know how good, or the Bulls. So do they know what type of player I was? Not really. I mean, I don't talk about it hardly ever. And as you know, or as anybody who's coached kids know, the older you get, the more kids look at you like you couldn't even ever run and chew gum at the same time, which is fine. But they do know the tradition and the history of my teams and the fact that we had a lot of success. Certainly in recruiting, I share my playing experiences as far as how much I love Illinois State and what a great experience it is. but I don't talk too much. Not only that, but I got a guy on my team who started in a national. I'm sorry, on my staff who started in a national championship game, Brian Reese at Carolina. And I've had, pros, Chris Duhan, Dean Oliver, guys playing the NBA on my staffs, guys win national championships. So I'm low on the list of coaches that have been here.
But I would think that, just because of anybody who's seen you play, there was like a toughness and a tenacity, and your teams, you try for that to be the culture of them. And so I assume that maybe they saw that in you, and maybe it was just easier for them to mimic that. But I guess that's just something that your coaching style.
Yeah, that doesn't have anything to do with how we played. Every once in a while, I will, and sometimes when things are going well, and sometimes when we're not playing well or doing things the way I think we should be, I will say, look, I got a lot of pride in this program. I wore that jersey, okay? That jersey you're wearing, I wore it, okay? And my teammates wore it.
Steve moving down the middle. Puts on the brakes, finds Rico Hill, goes to the left. Here's Kyle to Dan, layup, good. They did it! Redbird State did it! By one. Tennessee has the ball, shot at the buzzer. No! They did it! The Redbirds have won it. The Redbirds have won it. 82-81. Illinois State over Tennessee. Dan Muller with the winning basket, and the Birds are into the second round of the NCAA tourney.
That's really the farthest I go with how my teams played. Just me naturally, with a lot of influence from my high school coach, Dave Worland, and my college coach, Kevin Stallings, who I coached with. I just believe in toughness and tenacity and playing together as a team, defense. I believe in those things. So we certainly talk about that in recruiting a lot, and then we try to instill it in our culture every single day. And then it's who you are. I mean, as a person and as a coach, you have to be who you are. You can't be fake. They'll see that. And who I am as a guy who I just really get annoyed. And as I say, you want to press my piss off button, then you'll be lazy and not guard. And so they see that early, and it's consistent because it's just natural. I don't have to think about it. And hopefully over time, I think my players that are with me for multiple years, I think you can see the progression in their toughness and commitment to the defensive end.
Yeah, you can definitely see that. So before we move on, for some of the old heads who remember these days that we were talking about when you played and I played, who were some of the right,
long time ago.
Who were some of the players? I pretty much have a top three, especially in the MVC. Okay. Who were some of the best players that you played against during your time at Illinois State?
Well, I'm going to stick to the Valley because I got a lot of pride in the Valley. Right. I would say the best, most talented players, and I had the luxury of guarding all these guys because one of my jobs was guarding the best player, whether it was usually a wing, but even point guards and bigs at times. Chris Carr was at Southern Illinois. I was a freshman when he was a senior, and he was a beast, and we got 46 on us.
Wow.
Although we won in double overtime. And so Chris Carr was just so good. Rodney Buford at Creighton was really, really talented. He was 1 year younger than me, I believe, if I'm right. Just really good, 6'6" wing, talented as can be. Maybe the most talented guy that played in the league in my 4 years. And then I would say Troy Hudson at Southern Illinois was a bona fide bucket getter, would shoot any shot if you remember, which I'm sure you do, and was small. And I guarded him a lot, even though I was bigger. And so those three, Shea Seals my first couple of years. Of course, you were such a good player. Well, hell, I forgot Anthony Parker. Anthony Parker, although he had more success professionally, like he was easier to guard than those first three I mentioned, even though he was really good. So, but I'd probably put him on the list, AP. Yeah. So that would probably be my list. Are those three?
Yeah. So, I didn't get a chance to play against Chris Carr. I did play against Troy Hudson. And, man, he was really, really good. You're right. He should probably be on my list. I think the top three that come to the top of my mind is probably Anthony Parker. Not probably. Man, he was just – you're right. He had more talent than how he exerted himself because they had such a good team. Yeah. But, man, when he wanted to get it, he could get it. And, I mean, he was a monster. Rodney Buford.
Yep.
And then your teammate, Rico Hill.
Yeah. I put him on that too.
Yeah, another person that I think is right there, right in the top three. I don't know who I would take out though. Is Jason Daisy? Remember at Northern Iowa?
Oh, I hated Jason Daisy.
He was a
I
bucket
hate
getter
their
as
whole
well.
team. No, Jason was really good. He was my class. They were tough. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Put him
Yeah.
on there. Rico, you know what? We competed against each other for 3 years. So it'd pick up, we guarded. Well, I'd guard him. He didn't guard much of anything. So he probably won't watch this. I would lock him up. So he was easy for me to guard because I knew him.
Right.
But Rico was as talented and as gifted as any of those guys we mentioned, and just a bigger player than the other guys were mostly wings and guards, as obviously
Yeah.
But Reek was so good for us and obviously dominant in our league.
Definitely. So after you graduated, you went overseas and you played a little bit, came back and joined Coach Stallings at Vanderbilt. And for 5 or 6 years there, Vanderbilt stayed in the top 25. You guys went to a couple Sweet 16s. They haven't had that level of success since. I know that you were the recruiting coordinator at the time. So how are you guys getting such good talent? And how are you building that program to get it to that level of success during your tenure there?
Well, it's credit to Coach Stallings, number one. One thing that he taught me as a player, then I worked for him for 12 years actually at Vanderbilt, played for 4. You said I played overseas for 2 years, a few countries, and then went to Vanderbilt. And Coach was really good at building programs, and you do that with balanced rosters. Of course, you do it with talent. You do it with need and position, and he's a really good offensive coach. So he saw the game through that lens and shooting. We got a lot of under-recruited guys, quite frankly. At the time, Vanderbilt, not that they've been really good recently, but Vanderbilt was really a tough place to recruit to. High academic standards, kind of the bottom of the SEC as far as commitment to athletics at that time, and just nationally not as much of a name athletically, because this is, of course, before social media got really big and every game was on TV. I mean, when I first got to Vanderbilt in 2000, I don't know, maybe half our games were on TV, so we just had to get under-recruited guys in a lot of ways. We developed the heck out of them. Coach Stallings was an offensive genius, and we got lucky. We got some pros. We worked really hard. We recruited nationally, which now a lot of people do, but back then, and this is 20 years ago, you didn't really recruit nationally as much, but because of our academic strength, we could do that. And we just had 4-year guys that committed to Coach Stallings and the philosophy and the system.
5 seconds to go. 4, 3, 2, 1. How sweet it is! Can you believe it? Vanderbilt is on their way to the Sweet 16.
We just developed them. We had a heck of a run. We went to 5 out of 7 tournaments, I think, 2 couple Sweet 16s, consistently top 25. We won the SEC championship. Anthony Davis, the year Kentucky won it all, they lost twice. They lost on a last-second shot to Indiana, and then we beat them in the championship game by about 8. And so we had a lot of success. That was my last year at Vanderbilt, but a great place. I love Nashville. I love Vanderbilt. But that's how Coach did it. Just get good kids, develop the heck out of them, and compete like crazy.
Man, you guys were really, really good. I remember that. And just me being from South Bend, I have a different level of respect for that, because I know schools like Vanderbilt, like Stanford, like Notre Dame do have higher academic standards, and sometimes it's harder to get players in. And so to be able to get the level of players in that you were and win, I mean, I tip my hat off to you guys. You guys were really good. Moving on to your time here at Illinois State, I wanted to talk to you about your scheduling a little bit, because, you scheduled tough. If I'm not mistaken, 2018-19, you had BYU, San Diego State, and Ole Miss came to Redbird Arena. This last year, Cincinnati, TCU. A lot of teams, and when I was first trying to get into coaching, a lot of coaches always said, you know what? Schedule quite a few bye games.
Yeah.
Make sure you go into conference with X amount of wins. If you can go into conference with 12 wins and you go 500 in conference, your 20 wins, you got job security, right? You don't seem to take that approach, right? So why do you tend to schedule so tough in the non-conference, and what is your philosophy in scheduling?
Yeah, there's really, in my 8 years in the league, of course, it's changed a little bit. Creighton and Wichita State were in it when I first got in. But there's a couple coaches who have scheduled really aggressive. Ben Jacobson at Northern Iowa schedules consistently aggressively. I have. Loyola has become that, although they weren't that for the first 5 or 6 years of Porter's tenure there. My philosophy has been very simple. I want to play a number of different teams and styles, high quality. I think it helps in recruiting. I think it's good for your fans, and prepare ourselves for the conference race, regular season race. And if you look at my teams before last year, and the year before we underachieved, but before last year, in our last 10 to 12 games, in almost all my years, we've been really, really good. 8-4, 9-3, 10-2, whatever it is. And I think a lot of that is because we've had tough schedules. Now, if you look at my overall record, it's not going to look as good as a lot of those other people. Like you said, job security, a lot of coaches, just win 20 games no matter what. And a lot of coaches think, okay, that year people look at you and maybe they're not impressed. But you do that 5-6 years, they look at your overall record and they think you're doing something. I haven't worried about that. A lot of that is credit to my administration and the commitment that we have. But I just want to play games that I would want to play as a player. And I just wanted to play against good teams. And so we've been very aggressive with home and homes. We just play quality. Cincinnati, you mentioned them. We played Western Kentucky before Bassey got hurt. We just playing good, really good MTEs, they call them multi-team events, which has helped us a lot. So I want to play in games that I would want to play as a player. I want to prepare our team for the conference. And then if we're good enough, I want to give us a chance to get an at-large bid. Obviously, we haven't been fortunate enough to do that yet. But those are the three things that drive my schedule.
Yeah, and for you to bring those level of teams also to your home court, that's a good thing for your fans as well. And I think you're right, man. The harder you schedule up front, you may not always get as many wins, but you want to be playing your best basketball in March going into that MVC tournament. And
that's right.
I think your schedule allows you to do that. And so, like you said, you mentioned last year, normally right now, I'm sure just knowing how competitive you are. Every year that you've been at Illinois State, never finished below 500 until this past season. So I know you guys would be in the gym working your butts off, telling them, hey, we're rebounding. We're going to be back at the top of the valley next year. COVID-19 has obviously stopped that. So how are you communicating with your players, and what are you doing to keep them engaged and keeping them on the path to continue to improve and have a bounce back year next year?
Yeah, you're right about the firting part. Really disappointing the year we had, disappointed myself. It's my job to put a product on the court that represents this program and helps our players succeed. And we had a great year in a lot of ways off the court academically. I loved our players. They stayed together, but we didn't win nearly enough games, and that was disappointing. And so I was so excited to get to work. And you always are, but each year is different. And even if you have the same players coming back, each year is different. But I could not wait to get back in the gym in the weight room in late March and April with this group of returners. And then I couldn't wait for our newcomers to come in, which obviously doesn't look like that will happen at this point. We haven't been doing anything that probably most are doing. We do study hall every day, and I usually jump on just to say hi to guys. And so I'm seeing them 4 or 5 times a week, maybe just 5 minutes with our academic counselor, getting them prepared. So that's been a really good way just to see them face to face and say hello. I do a lot of individual phone calls. I'm not a FaceTime guy, like at all, zero. But because of this, I'll hit them up, video call them just to see them, say hello. And a lot of what we focused on the last few weeks is just academics. We're not doing film. We're not talking about, what we're doing. We're worried about academics. How are you doing as a person? How's your family doing? What's going on? And that's all we focused on. Finals week starts next week for us. And actually after that, and when we're allowed to, we'll actually start some film work and get some stuff prepared. But the bottom line is these kids can't leave their house, most of them. And so we focused on body weight and what they can do at home with strength training with our strength coach. That's been our main focus. And then as things begin to open up, of course, we'll really get into the basketball stuff. But that depends on what state you live in and what you're allowed to do.
Yep. And I remember that was always a focal point, even when I played, when guys went home over the summer, is sending the strength coach your body weight each or every other day or once a week. Because, some guys are going to stay motivated, stay doing push-ups, running, whatever they do. And some guys are going to come back 15 pounds overweight. I mean, maybe not your guys, but across the country, not everybody has that self-determination and that self-motivation to stay on top of their health and their, conditioning. So,
some guys got to put weight on. We have more guys. I don't have one guy I worry about getting overweight. We have guys who that month of April, and more importantly, the 2 months you get in the summer, is such a critical physical development time. And think about football. It's even more of that for football, right? Yep. So losing the access and the coaching that our strength conditioning coach gives to these guys is almost as much of a loss as the on-the-court stuff. And so, but we're all in the same boat across the country, so we'll manage.
Yeah. So speaking of, you kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, looking forward to next year. Mm-hmm. So what are some of your expectations for next year? Do you have any freshmen coming in, any transfers, anybody that was sitting out? What can we expect from your team next season?
Yeah, we'll add a number of new faces. We had one kid sitting out as a redshirt, a freshman, Haruna Sissoko, about 6'6.5", big-time athlete. We signed 4 kids early, 3 high school and 1 junior college. And we signed 2 kids late, 2 JUCO bigs. And you know what? You'll know this because you're talking to coaches. Every coach in the country says, "Oh, I love my players. I'm excited." Like, we're all undefeated right now, right? So it sounds superficial in some ways. And you don't know what you have until they're on campus, not only individually, but team-wise. But I think our team next year will, in a lot of ways, look like a lot of my teams before the last couple of years. Just defensive commitment, athletic, long. Got some really talented kids coming in, like really talented. But they need time together, and they need time at the college level, at the Division I level. And that's the biggest concern right now, Marcus, is the ability to acclimate themselves, get them acclimated to the demands and the discipline and the standards of Illinois State basketball, and also for them to be together. And so that's, as I keep saying, that's the concern, physically and just chemistry-wise. But, again, we're all in the same boat. We're all anxiously waiting to see what the NCAA and what each state individually, what each university allows, whether it's July or August, whatever it is. But I really like our talent level, and I think we got a bunch of guys that have some innate toughness to them, and some team guys. So I'm excited. And our expectations are the same every year. We want to win the league. We want to make the tournament. We want to defend home court. I mean, that's kind of every year. That's what we want to do.
Well, good luck with that. I mean, your guys are always good and always tough, and I'm sure as soon as you guys get a chance to get back in the gym, you're going to be working and striving to, like you said, get back at the top of the valley and make the tournament. So before I leave, I always try to, ask the same question. I bring people on who had levels of success. People don't know, if they don't know how good you were in high school, if they don't know other things about you, we only have a certain amount of time today, but I know you're very strong into your faith and have success in those areas of your life. As a coach, NCAA tournament, you've been successful. So what are some of the things that you do, or do you have any daily habits or any routines or any things that you do that you think has helped you be successful throughout your life?
You know what, my philosophy in general in my life is pretty basic. Try to treat people right, really treat people with respect, but also tell people the truth. Sometimes people don't like hearing the truth, but I'm pretty good at, I think, telling the truth as I see it. Worry about the things I can control and don't worry about the other stuff. And that drives my wife crazy sometimes because I really don't worry about much at all unless I believe I legitimately can control it. There's so many things in this life, in this world, that we can't control right now that we do worry about. I think it's toxic, especially for young people. My faith is very important to me. I pray every day. I do try to work out 5-6 days a week, even if it's 20, 30 minutes, and stay physically fit, eat the right way. I don't read as much as I should. I do want to. I try that. And so that's really it. Work out, eat healthily, treat my wife and my family the right way, read if I can, pray every day, go to church. I tell my team knows this. I go to church every Sunday. I don't care if we're in Cancun, if I'm recruiting in Vegas. I'm finding if we play at 1 p.m., I'm going at 8. I'm going to church, period. And so that is something that's keeping me very balanced, and that's from my parents. And I think in today's world right now, with so much uncertainty, I think if you can just simplify things, okay, your faith and your family, and then self-improvement and have meaning in your life, more so than obviously social media and what I look like and this and that, but what's your purpose and your meaning? How can you help people? How can I help my assistants? How can I help my players? Those things that I really try to spend time on. And so it's been good. But the first one, like I said, don't worry about stuff you can't control, man. I mean, why? It's just a waste of time. I know that's hard, especially right now. I do want to say a special a prayer and just a blessing to anybody who's struggling, whether it's health-wise, but also economically and depression and things right now. It's a tough time for people to deal with adversity. And I just hope everybody is okay and we can get past this.
One of the things that are part of this podcast is when people are able to take little pieces of, even as coaches, we look at another coach and we take a piece of his set or this defense or this or that. So to be able to take bits and pieces of what successful people do, and you just gave a lot of good things right there. So I appreciate that answer, man. And yeah, Coach, I appreciate your time for coming on with us.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate the chucks to the chest when we played.
Hey, man.
But, man.
Hey, if you couldn't score so well, I wouldn't have to, hit you when the ref wasn't looking as much. We had good teams, though. I played on really good teams, and that was a great part of my college experience. But you guys got it done the year after we left.
Yeah, you did, man. That I will say, just playing against you guys made me a lot tougher, made me realize I needed to get in the weight room more that summer, which did catapult us to a championship. So, man, iron sharpens iron. So I respect your game, man, and I really hope that you guys can get back in the gym soon. You guys start working, and good luck to you next season, Coach.
Thanks for having me, my man.
All right, man. Take care. Peace. Thank you so much, Dan, for coming on and giving us that time and taking me down memory lane a little bit, talking about old MVC times and players and teams. And best of luck to you and your program this summer, moving forward in the season next year. Moving ahead, my next episode I'm really excited about. Any of you guys that know me know I'm from South Bend, Indiana. You know what I'm doing every Saturday afternoon. I'm watching Notre Dame football. And so to be able to bring head coach of Notre Dame basketball team, Mike Bray, on was a big deal for me. I'm a big Notre Dame fan because I'm from South Bend. I support my hometown. I love what Mike Bray does in the community with some of his nonprofit work. Obviously, he's brought a level of success to Notre Dame basketball that we as a city and the university hadn't had in a long time. So I appreciate what he does for my hometown. And anybody that knows Mike Bray, I think he's been voted one of the nicest guys in the business. He's just a nice guy, fun to talk to. Obviously, a really good basketball coach because he's had success in Notre Dame in the Big East, in the ACC, had success before he got to Notre Dame, at Duke as an assistant. A lot of you guys didn't know that he was on Coach K's staff as an assistant for several years, went to 6 Final Fours. So his level of experience and success his record speaks for itself. And I'm really excited to bring him on. So make sure you guys come back. He's going to tell you ways to be successful and give you some of the details of that because you know what? That's right. Greatness is in the details, guys. Continue to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for supporting. We're going to keep this going. See you next episode. Be safe out there. Peace.